Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Aramin Mendieta Gauto, and for my young adolescent development project, I chose to research about the effect of puberty in adolescent development. And this might sound kind of weird, but let me explain this to you a little bit better. Being a young adolescent can be rough. We've all been there and we've all done that, and there are a lot of changes going on all at the same time. Changes in the cognitive aspect, the physical aspect, the intellectual aspect, in sexuality, in many aspects. And as you know, the human being functions according to all the previously mentioned aspects. And it can be a huge alteration in young adolescents if they are not being provided with the basic needs, which is often what it happens with young adolescents who have to live in poverty. Anita Woolfolk mentions in her book Education Learner Differences that, I'm going to quote her here, that in the early years, even when they're kids, children in poverty experience higher levels of stress hormones than children in middle class and wealthy families. High levels of these hormones can interfere with the flow of blood in the brain as well as the development of synaptic connections. In addition, stress hormones can deplete the body's supply of tryptophan, an amino acid that calms impulsive and violent behaviors. She also mentions something in the cognitive aspect. I need to clarify that this is not the general rule for children in poverty, but she mentions that poor children are read less and spend more time watching television, and they have less access to books, computers, libraries, trips, and museums. This is not the general rule, but she mentions that, and this can have a huge effect on their cognition because they're not as exposed to educational material as children in the middle class and children in wealthy class. An article that offers more details on the effects of poverty and cognition is the article titled "The Effects of Poverty," written by Jan Brooks Gunn and Greg J. Duncan. And this is a wonderful article that mentions that children living below the poverty threshold are 1.3 times as likely as non-poor children to experience learning disabilities and developmental delays. They clarify in the same article that these are short-term effects in cognition and not long-term effects. So it cannot be said that, oh yes, poverty affects children to have this cognitive ability for the rest of their lives. That cannot be said, but there is some impact in a short-term effect. This same article also explains how emotional and behavioral aspects are involved as a consequence of the cognition and the physical aspects, and even the neighborhood and the environment that young adolescents in living in poverty can experience. And I'm gonna quote them here, and they mention that poor children suffer from emotional and behavioral problems more frequently than do non-poor children, and emotional outcomes are often grouped along two dimensions: externalizing behaviors including aggression, fighting, and acting out, and internalizing behaviors such as anxiety, social withdrawal, and depression. And data regarding emotional outcomes are based on parental and teacher reports. So they mention that this is sort of the consequence of all the stress that they deal every day. And I cannot finish this presentation without giving some advice to the future teachers or teachers who want to teach young adolescents who are being affected by poverty. According to the article, The 4 Keys to Helping At-Risk Students, written by Maurice J. Elias. He's Maurice. He's holding a kid in that picture. He created a list of 4 advices that can help any teacher to teach young adolescents who are being affected by this. His first advice for teachers is to create care-sustained relationships. He advises that teachers should genuinely care for students, take the time to learn about their stories, take the time to listen to them, to their day-to-day struggles, and to how they feel on the inside. because this can strengthen the student's identity, because he or she will be able to say, my teacher cares about me and he actually takes in account what I have to say or the things that I think. His second advice is to create reachable goals in class. Teachers have a curriculum. They outline what they expect from their students, but it's very good for the students to feel that the teacher is setting goals that they can actually reach. And the third advice is to create, as teachers, realistic, hopeful pathways. So after setting a goal, as teachers, we have to create a pathway. We have to create a process that will allow the student to step by step get to the goal that we set up for them. And his fourth advice for us is to create that community in schools, to have engaging schools and community settings. So it's very important for students to feel part of the community, to feel that with their personality and identity, they fit in the school, and that they fit in the group and in the community, in the educational community. So that was my project, and I hope you liked it and enjoyed it. And I hope you don't mind my accent, but oh well. So yeah. Thanks for listening.